We're ready? Okay, I'm going to click off this slide. Does anybody need to write anything down? Okay, so get Poll Everywhere set up real quick and grab that URL. Oh, look at the cameras coming out. Quick, 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 quick. Okay, I see you. All right, I'm going to go. I don't want to waste any of our time. All right, so this is our title slide, and this is AccessAbility, 5 steps to an accessible syllabus. And my name is Alyssa Sells. I am a program administrator for in the Office of E-Learning and Open Education for the Washington State Board for Community and Technical Colleges. I am also the lead QM coordinator for our system of 34 colleges. I am a peer reviewer as well, and I have a whole variety of things that I do that I'm not going to get into. QM is a major role for me, but the one last thing I'd like you to know is that I do try to model accessibility and accessible document creation in everything I do. So all the work I produce is as accessible as I can as I know how to make it. So later, if you go in and look through some of my stuff, you'll hopefully find that it's accessible for the 5 steps we're going to talk about. I did give you a practice document that is intentionally inaccessible because we're going to learn how to fix those things. All right. Now we're going to say hello to our webcast audience. We are joined by a group online. We're in Zoom today, so I just want to acknowledge them and say hi. So hello. And I also wanted to thank Jim from QM for being here to help out. And then we got some media helpers too, so thank you. They helped get me set up, and they're going to keep me in line today, hopefully. Maybe not. I don't know. I get kind of rowdy sometimes. Okay, so just a couple quick housekeeping things, just a note about the structure of this presentation. This is supposed to be a hands-on lab, and so I have designed it that way. We are going to chat a little bit to introduce some concepts. Then I will introduce you to a skill. We will leave PowerPoint and go to our practice document, and you will practice whatever step it is we're on, and we're going to flip back and forth and repeat those in and out of PowerPoint and in and out of our practice document until we've covered all 5 of our steps. So that's kind of the plan of what we're going to do. So if you could get the practice document pulled up, that will save us some time when we get to our first practice part. Okay. Another thing is you have access to this presentation. You have access to a webcast recording of this. You can have access to me after this is over. So instead of taking really detailed notes and just have your heads down and focusing on note-taking, I would really encourage you to, when we get to the hands-on pieces, that you actually practice and try to apply that, because that's actually what we're here to do. And then one last thing I'd like to mention is that there are a ton of extra slides at the very end of the presentation. This was originally like a 2 or 3 hour workshop, and I've cut it down to give it to you in 5 minutes. You are going to be on cognitive overload. I will just tell you that now. It's like drinking from a fire hose, and we are going to have to go a little bit fast because I want to get through all 5 steps, but there are some really, really great extra resources at the end. So please download the full presentation and go in and look at those. So there's some things we won't have time to talk about, like color and contrast and selecting fonts and things like that. Okay, any questions before we start? We're good? Jim, is the online audience good? Good to go? Thumbs up? Okay, all right. Whoops. So our session objectives are to identify the 5 basic principles or steps behind creating accessible documents in Microsoft Word. And we're going to look at how to create an accessible document. And then there's a special tool that I really love in Microsoft Word that lets us evaluate a document for accessibility. And it's a really great way to check your work. So we'll get to that at the very end. Okay. This presentation relates to standard 8.3, and that standard reads that the course provides alternative means of access to course materials in formats that meet the needs of diverse learners. Well, that can mean a lot of things. Then there's a little bit of extra information here about providing alternatives to all non-text content. And then if you have a copy of the rubric, you can go to the annotation, and there's 6 points in the annotation. The first one is about captioning. We're not going to get to captioning today. And the 5th and 6th ones are, I think, color and PDFs. Information about those are in the extra resources at the end. The ones we're going to concentrate are the middle ones that have to do with adding document structure, headings, alternative text, descriptive hyperlinks, and how to format tables and use some of the formatting tools in Word. All right, so what does accessible mean? Well, the U.S. Departments of Education and Justice have defined that as a person with a disability must be able to obtain the information as fully, equally, and independently as a person without a disability. Okay, so fully, equally, and independently. That's what it means to have something be accessible. So we are going to do our first poll. And this poll is going to ask you to rate the accessibility status of your course documents. I'm going to leave our PowerPoint, our slides, and I'm going to go over to poll everywhere. And, oops, there's that Zoom window in my way. Hold on just a second. Okay, there's our polls. All right. Hey, you guys are fast. Look at that. All right, so the online audience is voting, you're voting. If you want to get this set up on your phone, if you've just come in, you can text QM Connect is what goes in the body of the text, and the phone number that you text it to is 22333, and it's right there at the top. Or you can also go to pollev.com/QMConnect. We'll give you just a second to finish doing that. Looks like we've still got some people voting and changing votes. Okay, so we see that a lot of you are just in the beginning stages, and I think that's probably where a lot of us are. I'm past the just beginning stage, but I still have stuff I could go back and fix. But I made the commitment that everything I produced from a certain moment in time from that point on was going to be accessible. All right, I'm going to go back to our slides now. Thank you for sharing your information with us. Okay. So why are we even talking about this? Why are accessible documents important? Well, here's a little secret. You don't always know who's going to benefit from them. So many students have disabilities. Some are visible and you can tell. I mean, you just see them, they're visible, they're out there, they're there. Some students have invisible disabilities. Something you can't tell. You can't tell if somebody has a learning disability. You can't tell if they're dyslexic. You can't necessarily tell if they're hard of hearing. So there are things that we can't know and can't see. And here's the other little secret. Not all students disclose their disabilities. They don't all document that. There's sometimes a stigma attached with having a disability, and having a disability support services help. So we have a lot of students that are sitting in our classrooms that could use help and could use accessible documents, but we don't know because they don't tell us, and we can't see just by looking. So that's the first one. The second one is, it's the law. Did you know that? This is not new. The American with Disabilities Act has been around. Can anybody read me that date there? 1990. What year is it now? Yeah, 2017. So this is not new stuff. It's kind of gaining momentum. The momentum on it is new, and people are starting to get interested in it and recognize, and there have been lots of lawsuits recently. So just be aware it's a law. But my favorite one is the last one here. It's just good, inclusive teaching practice. We practice it in architecture. Why would you build only stairs when you can build a ramp? Would you intentionally put a barrier in your classroom? Would you intentionally do that? No. So not having accessible documents can be a barrier for some students. I just had a little statistic that I want to read. Students with disabilities make up 12% of the students enrolled in community colleges. Those disabilities range from mobility and physical impairment to brain injury to blindness to mental illness. And then from my system specifically, in the Washington Community and College Technical System, only the students that disclose their disabilities range from 1.62% to 7.37%. So not a lot of students are disclosing. And then if you look at this all together, and these figures were put together for me by someone else, and I can get you more information on if you need them. But in my system of 34 colleges, the number of students with disabilities equals the size of one of our larger community and technical colleges. So we're talking like 12,000 students. So you're talking about an entire college of people that could benefit. So I think that's pretty interesting. I just wanted to show you this little infographic too. If we can get there. Zoom again. Oh, is that what activates it, Jim? No, it's me. Sorry. So sorry. All right, I just have to sneak up on it. There we go. Okay, I snuck up. So these are some of the disabilities that they found in this study that they did, and it ranges. There's a whole variety there. It's just kind of interesting to see. I'm really visual, so I like to see rather than just hear. And this was done by the American Association of Community Colleges, that first 12% number that I gave you, and then the rest of the numbers came specifically from my system. So some pretty interesting stuff. All right, moving on. So what are the benefits of accessible documents? Well, if you build it in or bake it into your design in the beginning, your course materials are readily usable by the broadest student population that's going to enter your classroom. You've already included as many people as you can include. That doesn't mean that you're not ever going to have to make an accommodation for another student ever. I mean, there are some things you can accommodate for. You can't be the interpreter if there's a deaf person and they need, sign language help. Unless you're skilled in that, you're not going to be the person to do that. So that's not something you can bake in to your course design, but accessible documents are. You can definitely do this. As I mentioned earlier, it benefits students who are not requesting those accommodations, and it's already there. They can just use it. This example is captioning, but if you have captions, those are usable by people who, may need to see the words rather than just hear it, people who listen slow, people who are learning how to speak a foreign language, there might be English as a second language. I mean, there's a whole variety, there's a whole population of users that can use our documents and use the things in our course if we've already put them in there. So these last two are for faculty, like to help overcome objections to doing this. Does it take a long time to switch your entire class over? Is it an easy task? Well, no, it's not easy. You got to learn it. Does it take time? Well, yes, it does, but it only takes time once. Only takes time once. And if you do it now instead of waiting, you're ready to go. So would you want to have to make an entire course accessible at the last minute? Because you might not get the accommodation paperwork until 2 days before the quarter starts, right? Or 2 days into the quarter. Then what do you do? So if you already have your documents accessible, you are ready to go. You're on that road. And then I don't know if you are into changing the formatting of your documents, but I'm a prolific design person and I'm a perfectionist. And I like to change colors sometimes, and I like to change text and fonts. I get tired of looking at things the same way. So if you apply these headings and styles that we're going to talk about, you can change your entire document in the click of a button. It's super, super fast. All right. So we're going to do one more poll. And this poll is going to ask you to rate your current level of comfort creating accessible documents. And let's go over to the poll. And I just need to switch it over. Hold on just 1 second. Let me get it there. Okay, you guys should be able to answer now. So your current level of comfort. A lot of you said you were just beginning, but how comfortable are you in what you're doing? Do you have a high level of confidence? Okay, got a good group of you saying that you're good, but you have more things to learn. I think I'm probably still in that group. I keep learning stuff. I know a lot of stuff, but I keep learning stuff, so that's great. Okay, we're gonna go back to PowerPoint. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this might not be the most beautiful syllabus in the world. It's pretty basic. But when you look at it, can you tell where the headers are? Can you see kind of how the information is separated? Okay, this syllabus looks pretty innocent, right? Guess what? It has lurking, hidden accessibility issues. You can't tell by looking at it that it's not accessible, but it is not. So let me just get my questions here. All right, I'm going to show you a document, and I'm going to ask you to find some things in the document. You don't have to shout them out. You can if you want to, but this is more just you're going to take a look at it and see what you think. All right, ready? Okay, tell me, what's the third course outcome? Is the course synchronous or asynchronous? Are frequent LMS updates normal? And what is the password naming convention for this LMS? Can you find any of that information? Are you struggling just a little bit? Where are the sections? Can you find it? Can anybody find any answers? Did you skim and find anything? Hard, huh? Okay, so how would you feel if you were the student and your teacher gave you a document that looked like this to you? And then they expected you to read it, understand it, use it, and apply it. Not cool, huh? Right? Okay, so this is what a screen reader would see of that document that I showed you, that we all agreed looked okay. But because it's not set up with the right formatting to be accessible, a screen reader can't tell where any of the sections or headers are. So it's just this big sea of text. I always like this one. I think this one's fun. All right, so let's move on. I have really good news for you. That sea of text is fixable in 5 easy steps. 5 easy drinking from the fire hose steps. All right, so we're going to talk about headings, alternative text, descriptive hyperlinks, the built-in styling tools for formatting, and we're going to talk about labeling data tables. Are you ready? Okay. All right, step 1. We want to use headings. So headings give our document structure. It's what lets a screen reader skim through a document. Screen reader users can navigate and skim the same way a sighted person can skim if the proper structure is in place. You can think of it as an outline. That's the easiest way, because we're all familiar with outlining, right? Headers give the document a hierarchy, an order, and you can put in subheadings, and we'll get to that. The headings need to be added sequentially, so you're not going to skip from heading 1 to heading 3 because you missed heading 2 in the middle, and that would get confusing. So you're going to go in order. And then I'll give you a little hint here. If you're going to attend the final session, there might be a trivia question related to my presentation. So headers are the one most important thing you can do to make something. If you can only do one thing, it's the one most important thing you can do to your syllabus or to any other document you might be working in. So if you only have time to do one thing, go in and add the headers. It's a great place to start. Okay, so how to add headers. This is the menu from Word. These little things are called ribbons. I think that's kind of weird, so I call them menus. So ribbons, menus. This is from the home menu, and there's a styles area. There's a little menu there for styles, and this is where you're going to select and apply the headings. And we're gonna go do this. I wanna show you where it is first, and then we're gonna go into the practice document, and you're gonna go find this, and you're gonna fix it in the document, okay? All right, let's go. How many of you have the document pulled up? Let me see. Not very many of you. All right, scoot together, find a friend who has the document pulled up. This is hands-on, folks. Come up front, come see us. This is a lab. Sorry, it's forced interaction, I know. You're all going, oh, I hate group work. Okay, so this is your practice document. There's lots of stuff in here that is not set up correctly, and headers are one of them. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna highlight the text, and there's a little direction there in parentheses of what you're supposed to do to make it a heading 1. So we're gonna highlight it. You're gonna go up to the styles menu, and you're gonna click on heading 1, and watch what happens to the color of the text. Okay, so it automatically changed it to this color. The blue is kind of hard to see. That's a default, but we can go in and change all those later. I do want to move through this, so I'm not going to show you all the little things right now. So we just put in our first header, okay? This says objectives, make this heading 2. Okay, we're going to make it heading 2. So I highlighted it. I went to the styles menu, and now instead of clicking on heading 1, I'm going to click on heading 2. So now it's formatted. Okay, I'm going to go through the document and show you a little trick. I'm going to look for some other things that are heading 2. So here's one that's heading 2. Okay. And I'm going to do that one too. Now, what I'm going to do is I don't like the blue. I don't really mind the blue, but I'm just pretending right now. So I'm gonna say that I want this to be different. I'm not gonna pick red because red is not a good color to use for this. There's a lot of problems you can have with color blindness. Red and green combination should be avoided at all costs, if at all possible. I'm just trying to pick a color that might show up on the screen well for us. Let's see. Okay, so can you see that I changed that one to kind of a purplish pink? Okay, I've got this other one down here that's still blue. I can highlight this. I can go back to heading 2, and instead of regular click, I right click, and I can click on update heading 2 to match. And everything in my document that I have designated as heading 2. Now remember, I've only done one other one as of right now. But when I click this button, that other one's just gonna auto-magically turn purple. Ready? There you go. Okay, so you could effectively change your entire fonts, whatever. You could change your colors, you can change sizes, anything you want to do. You do want to start with heading 1. There is one in here called a title, and it seems like we should start with title, right? It seems like we should, but we're not going to start with title. I don't know an easy way to explain it without getting into web design, but web design also uses these basic heading structures, heading 1, heading 2, and when you, the title tag in Word doesn't match up or do anything with, it's different than the title tag on web design. So if you start at heading 1 and you're trying to match up to heading 1 on your web pages or something, then it all works out. So that's why you're gonna start with heading 1. Okay, any questions on how to apply this? How many of you were successful? Do you guys get it? Okay, cool. Do you feel confident that you could go into a document and do that? Okay, all right. I'm gonna go back to PowerPoint, and we're gonna move on to step 2. And step 2 is to add alternative text. Who can tell me what alternative text is? Do you know what that is? Okay, what's your name? Kim. So Kim says it's what the screen reader would read as a description because it can't see the picture, and she's absolutely right. Good job. All right, so all graphic elements, it's not just images, all graphic elements need to have alternative text associated with them. So when we get started talking about tables, we're going to talk about putting alternative text on tables. You should put it on charts, graphs, images. I even discovered that I could put it on a video in PowerPoint. You could go in and format and put the alternative text in the video if you wanted to. So that was pretty cool. I just discovered that yesterday. So we want to make sure we get those text descriptions in there. The alt text, which is the way people talk about alternative text, nobody says alternative text. It's alt text if you hear that. It conveys the context and meaning of the image, and it relays to students how it's important and why they need to know. How does it relate to the learning? And you should be able to answer that question for any of your students before you even put an image in your course or in a document. How does this relate to the learning? Do I need it? That's one way you can measure if that image is a good match for what you're doing. Okay? Now, writing good alt text can be challenging. It really can. We're going to go through a little example here before we go try to add alt text to something. So this is what the screen reader sees. What does it see? Image, graphic. If you don't put alt text, they don't get anything. So it's really important. There's no information provided to the screen reader user. And here's our example for writing good alt text. This can be tricky. It really, really is tricky. So we have options here. So what's the best alt text for this image? Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier on a clear day. Mount Rainier from the northwest showing the receding Russell Glacier. Or Ptarmigan Ridge, a grade 3 climb on mixed terrain with a 5.8 pitch on rock. No, I am not a rock climber. But do you know what's the best alt text for this? Do you want to give me any votes? What do you think? I love it. Good job. Okay, so context is everything. Context really is everything. Do you want to know what the alt text is for this image in my presentation? Yeah? Okay, I'm going to read it to you. An image of the northwest side of Mount Rainier used to illustrate the idea that context matters when writing alternative text description for images. Has nothing to do with what you saw up on the screen other than to give the reference that it was Mount Rainier, right? So the context matters. My alternative text is different than a rock climbing class or a geology class or someone who's doing trail guides. It all depends on the context. All right, so how do we add alt text? So you're going to go into Word. You're going to find the image. You're going to click on it, and then a little menu pops up, and it's the formatting picture menu, and this is where you're going to find the alt text tools. We're going to go do it, and I'm going to show you exactly how to get there, so don't panic that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not following her. But this is where we're headed. Two things I want you to note. Your alternative text is going to go in the description field, not the title field. Not all assistive technologies read the title field, so put whatever you want students to hear or know or learn about that image, put it in the descriptive field. And I also want you to watch out. There's no spell check in here, so go back, reread, double check. I found even, I thought I'd checked them all. I found like 2 more spelling errors a couple days ago. So go back and make sure, because the screen reader is going to struggle with misspelled words. So make sure that you check that. Okay, so let's go do it. Go back to our practice document. There are a lot of images in here, but I think the one I left without alt text is this one right here. So you can select it, and then you right-click on it. Following? Okay. Format picture, and that opens up that menu. And then I don't really know what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be layout and properties, but it's just this little symbol here that you click on. And then there's one for text box. We don't want that one. We're going to go to alt text, and you're going to drop that menu down, and that's where the alt text is going to go. Is this appropriate alt text that's in here right now? A URL? No way. Okay, so we'll just take that out. This happens to be the book that QM uses for their teaching online certificate. So we could write something in there. What would be good alt text for this, given the context that it's QM's book for the teaching online certificate? Anybody want to take a stab at it? Okay. You could leave the URL in there, or you could put a link to the image, or you could put a link to it. The reason why I put a textbook picture in here is because a lot of us put pictures of our textbooks in our syllabus. So you would want students to know that it's the book for the course, that it's required, whatever information they need to know, and why is it there. So you might also, and we'll get to descriptive links in a minute, you might also put a descriptive link with that, and that's actually where I would put the URL for this image. Okay, questions before we move on? Are we doing good so far? Okay, do you want me to go faster? No, go slower? I can't go slower, I have limited time, sorry. All right. Okay, on to step 3, descriptive hyperlinks. We were just kind of talking about those. So the really cool thing about descriptive hyperlinks is a screen reader can navigate a document depending on how the user has it set up. A screen reader user can navigate a document and just go link to link to link to link. So they can skim for links just like a sighted reader would. And it's really important that the hyperlinks are clear and contextualized and meaningful. How many of you have ever used the text, click here? Oh, come on. Come on, let's all admit it. Okay, Jim. Jim's got his hand up. Okay, so, I mean, we're all guilty of this probably at some point because we didn't know. If you have a document that has links to 5 things and they all say click here, and you've linked the text, click here, what's the screen reader user going to hear when they go to navigate? Click here, click here, click here, click here. They have no context, no idea what they're clicking through. So it's better to give them context, and we're going to do that here in just a second. You can also add additional contextualized information in the paragraph before or the paragraph right after a link if you need to do that. I personally think it's better to put it in the paragraph before so the student would know what was coming next and why they were going to get that information. All right, so I'm going to play you a clip here in just a second. The first one here is an example of what not to do. So this is an example of what I would not do in my Canvas training course for faculty. I wouldn't say for more information, visit the Canvas guides and then give them the link like this. I mean, it is descriptive, but let me play you what a URL sounds like. Some of you were in the room when we were testing, so you already got the spoiler alert and you already know. But let's give this a listen. Okay, so you're navigating through a document using a screen reader, and instead of click here, click here, click here, you hear a syllabus has what, 5, 10, 15 links in it sometimes? Does that give the information, the user the information they need? No. Okay, so let's look at a more descriptive way to do this. So this bottom one demonstrates how to put the link contextually into the sentence. It has the same meaning. For more information, visit the Canvas guides. The text is the same. The link location is different. So now if a person was navigating through this document, when they come to the descriptive part of this, they would hear Canvas guides and they would know, oh, I was looking for the Canvas guides. That's the one I want. They'd click on it and go do what they needed to do. All right, let's go create a link. I'm sure most of you have created links. This one's pretty common. Let me find where in here this is. Each section, the practice document, in case I didn't mention it, goes in the order of the steps that we're doing. So you can go back to this and keep practicing later. We don't need to do it all now. So here's our same example that we have up here. And I'm going to show you how to put this link in. I'm gonna copy this. Okay, so now I have the URL copied. Then I'm going to highlight the text that I want to link to. I'm gonna go to the Insert ribbon or the Insert menu. And I'm gonna click on Hyperlink or Links depending on which version of Word you have. Okay, and then the text to display that I highlighted is up at the top. And then in the address bar, I'm gonna paste in that URL that I copied. I'm gonna click on OK, and it's gonna magically make that into a descriptive hyperlink. And then I'm gonna go take that out. Sometimes it is appropriate to use both, especially like in a presentation like this where I need you to be able to go and click on a link later. I would want that to be accessible. So I have a descriptive hyperlink, but then as the audience here in person or online, you would need to visually be able to see what that was, read it, write it down because you might not have had the presentation downloaded. So there are certain instances where it's appropriate to include both. Yes? Or device issue, if I don't provide the URL, they can't see where they're trying to get to for just an ordinary student, not a student. Yep. And so, what are the thoughts around including both in the course for that purpose, to give those other students a chance to see where they're going? Okay, I'm going to repeat the question because you didn't have a mic, and we do have a full group online, and I want to make sure that they get to hear your comment also. What's your name? Karen. Okay, so Karen's asking a question or making a statement. Well, she's asking a question and making a statement, but her statement was that often in her online course, she needs to include both the descriptive hyperlink and then the actual hyperlink due to connectivity issues. She wants students to have access to both. And her question is it appropriate to do that? Or yet? What would accessibility say about having both? I think it would be confusing to have both all the time. I guess you have to weigh the usefulness and the context. So like what I might do, rather than try, like if it's like a content page, even in a document, so this could be applied to a document or it could be applied to a web page, because I think that's probably what you're asking about as a page, a content page in your LMS. Just for the flow of the content that I was writing, I would use the descriptive hyperlinks in the paragraphs. And then if that is a problem that you know your students have, you might dedicate a small area at the bottom of your page that contains all the lists, the list of all the links on that page. Just write out what they are, colon, and then give the full URL. That way they're there if anybody wants them, but if nobody needs them, they can skip right over them. So it is appropriate if you need them to include both, but you would never include only the URL because that's not useful and functional just to do that. Is there a phrase or something that includes the students who do have screen readers, that this is a bank of URLs? I would put it as contextualized text at the beginning, just a little paragraph that says what those links are. And you might introduce that in your introductory video for the class and just say, hey, a lot of the students in this area have this problem and I've done this to help resolve that. So I just got the 10-minute warning and we're nowhere close to being done. So we have to continue drinking from the fire hose. I'm sorry. We have to move on. All right. So step 4 is to use the built-in styling tools. There's 2 slides on this. The first one that we're on now is about lists. Screen readers just don't recognize lists that are made with asterisks or dashes or tabs or spacing. You need to use the built-in formatting tools. And it will tell the reader that it is a list if the proper formatting is used. So shoot for those bulleted, numbered, lettered, like outline style lists, because that's a lot easier for screen reader users to understand. Okay, whoops. Okay, we'll go to the how-to on this in just a second. The second piece of using the styling tools, and there's lots of styling tools in here, but the ones we're going to talk about are columns and spacing. So screen readers read left to right, and if you use tabs to create your columns, it reads line by line and it makes absolutely no sense. And depending on the version of Word your student has, they download it, it messes up your formatting, nothing's aligned anyways. So just try to avoid using the space bar and the tabs for trying to line up columns and things. We always want to use those built-in tools. All right, so how to create a list. This is on the Home tab menu or Home tab ribbon. And it's just right here. We're going to go look at this. We're going to go apply that. And then how to create a column. There's one of these for columns. It's on the page layout menu. There is one for adding spaces for paragraph, line spacing. You can also find your tabs in here. And this is all on under these paragraph options here on the home menu. I think that might be the last one. Oh, there's also page breaks. Pretty much any formatting you want to do, you don't need to make up how to do it. They've built it in here for you. You just need to go find how to do it. You can indent, okay? Those little guys right there are indenting. Okay, that takes us to tables. So let's go back to our document real quick. And there's a whole section in here, step 4, on how to build these in. If you ran the accessibility checker on this, which we're going to do at the very end, you would find that this is not a list that was created using any formatting. You can't necessarily tell by looking at it, but what you're going to want to do is come in and take out whatever spacing or little symbols or whatever you've used, and then you're going to highlight the text that you want. Go to the Home tab, and then you can choose. If you want bullets, you can just click a button, make it bulleted. You can click it, make it numbered, however you want, but use those tools. Okay, there's the indent here. We can move things over. Don't just tab it over. Use the actual indents. Okay, I'm going a little fast because we need to get to stuff. If you want to space it, don't go in and put extra line breaks in yourself. You don't need to hit the enter bar. Come in here, leave it all highlighted. I'm going to do something obvious on here so you can see it really move. Not that you would space it that far apart, but I just spaced that super easy, super fast. Okay. All right. Columns are a whole tricky thing. This is something you might find in a syllabus, right? Office hours, phone number, classroom. Okay, well, if you come in and look real close at this, you're going to find this is all spaces in here. This is not actually a column. So what we would do is, it's probably faster just to retype it. I'm not going to take the time to actually retype or cut and paste. I'm just going to give you some fake text here. Okay. We're going to do several lines of this so that we've got enough to make a column out of. Okay, so you've got your list of things that you want to put in a column. Okay. You're going to highlight those. And let's see, I think it's on the layout menu. Okay, you're going to come to columns. How many columns do you want? It's one column right now. Do you want 3? Okay, we'll do 3. So it split it into 3. If you don't like where it did the breaks, you can actually come in here, and I always forget how to do this, so I wrote a cheat note so I wouldn't forget. You highlight your text, then you go to the layout menu again. This drop-down menu here for breaks, that's normally what we use for page breaks, right? Did you know there's a column break in here? You can click this and you can add a different break to your column. When you click that, then it will move it over. You don't have to space it down manually with all of the extra line spaces by pressing enter to get stuff aligned. You can do that just by clicking here. Okay, yeah, 5. Ah! Okay, sorry. I'm panicking now. We have 5 minutes left and we still have a lot to do. Okay, so let's keep moving. Luckily, we're on step 5, and step 5 is tables. Screen readers read left to right. We all read left to right, right? Okay. You want to identify a header row. You want to repeat the header row. You want to add alt text. And it's especially important to add captions if you have multiple tables in a document. So if you have 5 tables, you can put a little caption on it that says table 1, table 2, table 3. That helps. So we want to keep it simple. We want to use it for data, not page layout. We don't want to merge cells. That gets confusing. We don't want to leave stuff blank. We want to use the formatting tools. Let's go look at how to do that real quick. Okay. Whoops, where'd my table go? Okay. Okay, so here's my table. You're gonna select your table. Okay, then you're gonna right click it. I still have this menu open, so that's still over there. But we're gonna right click it to get the table properties. Okay, and then if you wanna insert the caption, it's here. So let's do the caption first. So it already put in table 1 for me, so we could just go ahead and leave that. Okay, so now it's table 1. And I'm gonna go to table properties, and hopefully you're following along and trying to do this as I'm showing you. And we want to go to the, let's see, rows. And we want to click this repeat as header row, but I did something wrong. We have to go back out of here because I don't want the whole thing to be header rows. I just want this to be the header row. So I'm gonna select the row that I want to be header rows and then right click. Go back to table properties and click repeat as header row. And then usually you wouldn't want the table to run across a page. You can if it's a super long one, but normally you would uncheck that. Alt text for your table is here. You'd put your description. Why are we including this table? This table happens to be grades. So you would give an explanation that this table explains the letter grade points and percentages for the class, and then it would explain how to navigate through that. Because if you don't do this, what the screen reader is going to read is letter grade points percentage, A, 90, 100, 90, 100%. Then it's going to go down to B. It's not going to repeat this header row here. So when the student gets back to that first row, they've kind of lost the context and lost their way. And it does the same thing with the columns we looked at. It would have read across the columns rather than down the columns. Okay, all right. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped these, but you can come back to them. I showed you though. Okay, always check your work. And the niftiest tool is the accessibility checker. I'll let you go in and read all these. I'm going to show you where the checker is because it's a really pretty neat deal. Okay, I'm going to go to File. Just like you're going to go to save a document, I'm going to go check for issues, check accessibility. And this is going to bring up, I'm going to close this other little formatting menu because we don't need it. And I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see it better. It's going to tell us that we have errors. We have missing alt text. We have no header row specified. We have an unclear hyperlink. We have a heading that's too long. We have not objects that aren't in line. We have repeated spaced characters. And we can click on any of these. Like if I click here, it'll take me to the place in the document. So it will show me where it needs to get fixed. And then down at the bottom, it gives you an explanation of why to fix it. And then it will tell you how to fix it. So that's pretty good stuff. Go home and check a document, check your syllabus, and then go through and apply the 5 steps. I'm pretty sure we're close to being, I got 2 minutes. Let's get to this last poll here. One thing that is important about accessible documents is that you have to make the commitment to doing it. You have to, you gotta make a goal. How many of you achieve goals if you don't write them down and do something with them, right? It's like, oh yeah, I'll do that later. Okay, so this next poll is open-ended. You can respond however you want. Think about it. What's one accessibility goal you're committed to achieving by the start of next quarter? Okay, let me open the poll for us. Okay, you can type anything you want. You can say you're going to make your syllabus accessible. You can say that you're going to do all your documents. You can say you're going to add descriptive hyperlinks. Whatever it is that makes you feel good about getting something done, or that you think, pick something small, chunk it. Pick something that you think you can do. If all you can get done by next quarter or next semester is your syllabus, go for it and do it. So I don't see anybody putting stuff in here. Let's make sure. There we are. Okay, you're going to add an accessibility document to your class. You're going to do all documents. That's pretty cool. Anybody else? You can shout them out to me if you don't want to type them. It's okay. You don't want to be accountable? Pretty much, right? Okay. All right, here we go. Going to redo your syllabus. Text and descriptive hyperlinks. Captions for images. So descriptive text, you're going to do your syllabus, okay? So this is really good stuff. Now that you've actually written it down, you will remember Like Todd said this morning, if you write it down, you'll remember and you'll do it, right? Okay, you're gonna remember where your car keys are, right? Okay. We did have another poll in here that we didn't get to. There are a couple other things that we're not going to get to. I would remind you to, I mean, we got through what we needed to get through, but the extra stuff at the end, I knew we weren't going to have time to do that. Please do go in and do the session survey. Go grab the whole entire PowerPoint. It is CC BY license. It's open. It's Creative Commons. You can take it. You can adapt it. You can use it with your faculty, give it to your friends, share it with colleagues, whatever you want to do with it. There are pieces of it that are indicated, like the chunks from the QM rubric. Those are all rights reserved. There's videos in here that are all rights reserved, but those are all marked. So unless it's marked that it's all rights reserved, it's all open to you. So please fill out the session survey. That's in your app. And then contact me. If you have questions, I'd love to hear from you. Yeah.
The Zoom recording, excuse my saying out loud, the Zoom recording will be available hopefully next week.
Yeah, and Jim's the one that'll have access, that'll get posted to the QM website. Yep, and then I thank you for coming, and please feel free to go. I'm just gonna cruise through these last slides here just so you can kind of see what's in here. One resource I would really encourage you to look at is our accessibility course. You can't register in, it's not open to people outside of our system, but you can definitely use the resources. There are, I think, 4 modules, and one of the modules is specifically dedicated to what we talked about today. There's information in there on PDFs, there's information in there on captioning, there's information in there on universal design for learning, law, access, accommodation, all sorts of things. So I'm gonna end because we're over 2 minutes. I'm sorry, but thank you for staying. This was a lot of fun, and thank you to our online audience too. And I hope you learned a lot, and please do send me your questions. I'll put my information up here again. Happy to help you with whatever you need. Thanks.